This is a fascinating study and the only one of its kind that shows you exactly what to do in order to reduce a fatty liver. Hey Wellness Warrior, I'm Dr. Nick Zyrowski, and you know what's really bad? There's over 4 billion people in this world suffering from fatty liver, and unfortunately in mainstream healthcare, we don't hear anything as to what should be done in order to reverse this problem and stop it, and of course stop this number from growing as it currently is. And when we look at fatty liver, the big issue that you face here is it's going to be high glucose and high insulin in the body for prolonged periods of time. Now, what's really interesting is that many people ask, well, what diet should I follow? What should I eat in order to reduce fatty liver? Well, there's an interesting study that shows us just that. It was done by the American Journal of Diabetes, and basically what they looked at is in children that were obese, what was necessary in order to reverse this. And now this study is actually fascinating because many of these studies can be done in rats and animal models, but yet these ones were done in human beings. So let's go ahead and dive into the study and talk about the specifics as to what you can do to reduce your fatty liver today. Now, when we look at this study, essentially they took a low-carb diet versus a low-fat diet. They had 32 kids and they broke them into groups, and one was following a low-carb, one was following a low-fat. Which one worked better? That's what we're trying to figure out here. Now, conventional thinking would tell us, of course, the low-fat diet is obviously going to be the answer, because if we have fat in the liver and we want less fat in the liver, then we stop eating fat, right? Well, not so fast. First of all, the low-carb group, what they were eating is 25% carbs, 25% protein, and 50% fat when you look at their total calories broken down to percentages. And the low-fat group was eating 55% carbs. So you can see that they had a much higher carb diet, 25% protein, and 20% fat. Now, the thing is that's interesting about this is not only did they have a high carb diet, but the low-carb diet really wasn't that low carb. Many people who would find themselves following a low-carb diet, you know, in the realm of even more keto-based types of diets, they'd be way lower in the carbohydrate group. So you can see that they had a still decent amount of carbohydrates in their diet, and the results that I'm about to share with you were phenomenal. Now, as I mentioned before, there's 32 kids, and what they did is they looked at them over an 8-week period. Now, over those 8 weeks, what they had these children do, of course, is follow the macros according to the group that they were in, but also what they had them do is follow a healthy diet. They were eating whole foods, get rid of the processed garbage, get rid of all the junk food. So they were eating healthy diets, both groups, but the big difference was just the breakdown of macros. Now, the other thing that's really interesting about the study is that they actually just followed normal calories. So at the beginning of the study, they looked at them and they said, hey, look, if you are eating 1,000 calories a day, and of course we're talking children here, or maybe 1,500 calories a day, then you are going to continue to eat 1,500 calories a day. It's not as if they put them on calorie restrictive diets, because we found that, of course, these don't work in this case. And so they didn't put them on calorie restrictive diets. They had to maintain the amount of calories that they were consuming throughout the entire study. They just changed the macros. And what they found is that the low carb group were able to actually lower their liver fat by 32%. Okay, they were able to find this using some of the most state-of-the-art scans that exist for testing liver fat, like DEXA scan. And so we can see low carb lost 32% of the fat on the liver, whereas the low fat only lost 1% of the fat on the liver. So we can clearly see one of the best diets to follow in order to actually reduce a fatty liver is going to be a low carb diet. And if you want to get better results, one of the things I talked about in another video recently is that a low carb diet will take you so far in lowering your glucose and lowering your insulin levels, which is a key factor in reducing fatty liver. But if you start fasting, it will actually increase the benefits by up to 30%. So fasting and low carb is going to be your ticket to reducing fatty liver. Now, a lot of people will ask, well, what is a healthy carb? You know, when we're following these low carb diets, what kind of carbs should we be eating? I'll put a download in the description below to a complimentary low carb guide as to what you should eat for good, healthy carbohydrates, because you want to stay away from the white breads and the bagels and all that stuff. Even when you're following a low carb diet, you want healthy carbs. Healthy carb food list will be in the description below for you to download totally free. So this is what you really have to consider when reducing fatty liver is your glucose, your insulin. How do we drive that down? Follow a good, healthy low carb diet. it will reduce the fat on your liver by up to 32%, according to the study, over an 8-week period, which is phenomenal. If you want that extra 30% bonus, start doing intermittent fasting. I'm Dr. Nick Zyrowski. Give this video a thumbs up and share it with one of the 4 billion people in this world that are suffering from fatty liver, because they need your help as well. And then also, if you like this video, I think you'll like this video right here next.